When my daughter Rachel sat across from me at Sunday brunch and called me pathetic for asking about the $42,000 I had given her over the past 18 months, I knew something inside me had finally shattered beyond repair. The word hung in the air between us like poison. Pathetic. Not unfortunate. Not struggling. Pathetic. I am Victoria Chen, 60 years old, a former corporate accountant who spent 35 years climbing the ladder at one of the biggest firms in Seattle. I raised 3 children on my own after my husband Michael died from a sudden heart attack when our youngest was only 12. I thought I had taught them about resilience, independence, and the value of hard work. I was wrong about everything. The moment that changed my entire life happened on a bright Sunday morning in October. We were sitting at this trendy cafe that Rachel had insisted we try, the kind of place where a single avocado toast costs $18 and the coffee comes with some unpronounceable name. Rachel was scrolling through her phone while I tried to find a gentle way to bring up what had been weighing on my mind for months. "Rachel, honey," I started carefully, "I need to talk to you about the money situation. I have been going through my accounts and I am realizing that I need to start planning more carefully for my retirement. I am wondering if we could discuss a timeline for you to start paying back some of what I have loaned you." She did not even look up from her phone. "Mom, seriously. We're having a nice morning. Can you not ruin it with this money stuff?" The irritation in her voice made my stomach clench, but I pressed on. "I know it is uncomfortable, but we agreed that these were loans, not gifts. I have the text messages where you promised to pay me back once you got your promotion." That is when she finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold, harder than I had ever seen them. And that is when she said it. "Mom, you are being pathetic. You have plenty of money. Stop acting like you are some struggling single mother. It is embarrassing watching you count every penny like some kind of miser." The cafe seemed to go quiet around us, though I knew it was just my perception. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "I loaned you $42,000 over 18 months, Rachel. That is not counting every penny. That is acknowledging that I have given you nearly half of my annual retirement savings." She waved her hand dismissively. "You chose to help me. Nobody forced you. And honestly, if you are so worried about money, maybe you should not have spent so much on that ridiculous cruise you took last year." The cruise. The 1-week vacation I had taken in 5 years. The cruise that cost $3,000 while I had been funding her lifestyle to the tune of $42,000. Something crystallized in that moment. Something cold and clear and absolutely final. "You are right," I said, standing up and reaching for my purse. "Nobody forced me. And nobody is forcing me to continue." I left 2 20s on the table for my untouched breakfast and walked out. Behind me, I heard Rachel call out in confusion, but I did not stop. I was done stopping. I was done explaining. I was done being pathetic. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. But I managed it. And as I drove home, I started making a mental list of every account, every credit card, every financial connection I had to my 3 children. Rachel was not the only one who had been draining me dry. She was just the one who had finally said the quiet part out loud. Let me tell you how I became the family ATM machine, because it did not happen overnight. It happened slowly, carefully, like water wearing away stone until you do not even notice the damage until the whole structure collapses. It started 14 months after Michael died. I was still raw, still waking up reaching for him in the bed, still crying at random moments when something would remind me that he was never coming back. My grief was this huge, suffocating thing that I carried around like a physical weight. Rachel called me on a Tuesday evening, crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Mom, I do not know what to do. Jake lost his job. The rent is due in 3 days and we have negative $40 in our account. I do not want to bother you, but I do not have anyone else to call." Jake was her husband of 2 years, a charming man who somehow never managed to keep a job for more than 6 months. But Rachel loved him, and I loved Rachel, and what kind of mother would I be if I let my daughter end up homeless? I transferred $3,000 that night. Rachel promised to pay me back as soon as Jake found another job. She was crying with relief, thanking me over and over, telling me I was the best mother in the world. Jake found another job 3 weeks later. I never saw a penny of that $3,000. But by then my son Marcus had his own emergency. His car had broken down and he needed it to get to work. Could I help him with the down payment on a used vehicle? $5,000 this time. He would pay me back in installments starting next month. Next month came and went. No payments. But there was a new emergency. His daughter needed braces. Could I help with the dental costs? My youngest, Sophia, was in graduate school. Student loans were not covering everything. Could I help with rent for just one semester? She would definitely pay me back once she graduated and got a real job. Each time the requests made sense. Each time I told myself it was temporary. Each time they promised to pay me back. And each time I convinced myself that this was what families did. You helped each other. You supported each other through hard times. What I did not see, what I refused to see, was that the hard times never ended. There was always another crisis, another emergency, another reason why they needed my money and why paying me back had to wait just a little longer. Over 18 months, I gave Rachel $42,000. I gave Marcus $38,000. I gave Sophia $24,000. $104,000 of my retirement savings, handed over in chunks of $3,000 here, $5,000 there, $8,000 for that emergency. And during those same 18 months, Rachel and Jake took 2 vacations to Mexico. Marcus bought a new entertainment system for his house. Sophia posted Instagram photos from expensive restaurants and wine bars. Meanwhile, I was eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner because I was trying to make my grocery budget stretch. I was wearing the same 3 outfits on rotation because I could not afford new clothes. I had canceled my gym membership, my book club subscriptions, my monthly dinners with friends. I was making myself smaller and smaller, taking up less and less space in my own life so that my children could expand into theirs. And the worst part, they did not even notice. Or maybe they noticed and just did not care. The morning after Rachel called me pathetic, I woke up with a clarity I had not felt in years. I made coffee, sat down at my computer, and opened every financial document I had. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements, text message screenshots, email confirmations. Everything. By noon, I had a complete accounting of exactly what each of my children owed me. Not what they said they owed me. Not what I vaguely remembered giving them. But precise, documented, provable amounts. Rachel, $42,375. Marcus, $38,800. Sophia, $24,150. Total, $105,325. More than $100,000. More than my first house had cost. More than I had saved in the first 15 years of my career. But what really made my blood run cold was what I discovered when I checked my credit card statements more carefully. There were charges I did not recognize. Purchases I had not made. Gas stations in cities I had not visited. Restaurants I had never been to. Online shopping charges for items I had never received. Someone had been using my credit card without my permission. I checked the locations and dates against my children's social media posts. Marcus had checked into that exact gas station on the exact date of one charge. Sophia had posted photos from that restaurant on the same day as another charge. Rachel had posted unboxing videos of makeup products that matched charges on my card. They were not just refusing to pay back their loans. They were actively stealing from me. I sat there staring at my computer screen, feeling like I was watching my entire understanding of my family crumble in real time. These were the children I had sacrificed everything for. The children I had raised alone after their father died. The children I had put through college, supported through their struggles, celebrated in their triumphs. And they were robbing me blind. My phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. Mom, you were really dramatic yesterday. Can we please just move past this? I need to talk to you about something important. Something important. Which undoubtedly meant something expensive. I put my phone down without responding and did something I should have done months ago. Called my bank. By the end of that phone call, I had removed all 3 of my children as authorized users on all of my accounts. I had changed my passwords, set up fraud alerts, and requested new credit cards with different numbers. I had frozen my credit to prevent anyone from opening accounts in my name. The bank representative who helped me was kind but professional. "Ma'am, I have to tell you that family financial abuse is more common than people realize. You are doing the right thing protecting yourself." Family financial abuse. I had not even known there was a term for it. Next, I called a locksmith. Within 3 hours, every lock on my house had been changed. My children had keys to my place, keys they had used to come and go freely, keys I had given them so they would always feel welcome in their childhood home. But they had made it clear they did not see my home as a place of love and family. They saw it as a resource to be exploited. They had probably gone through my mail, found my credit cards, taken photos of the numbers. Finally, I sent a single text message to all 3 of them in a group chat. "I have discovered unauthorized charges on my credit card and have reported them to the bank as fraud. I have also compiled a full accounting of all loans made over the past 18 months. You each have 30 days to contact me with a repayment plan. After 30 days, I will be taking legal action to recover what I am owed." Then I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of wine. For the first time in 18 months, I felt like I could breathe. The response was instantaneous and explosive. My phone started buzzing like an angry hornet the moment I turned it back on 2 hours later. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails. All 3 of my children, suddenly very interested in talking to their pathetic mother. I did not answer any of them. Instead, I listened to the voicemails on speaker while I made myself a proper dinner. Not peanut butter sandwiches. Real food. "Mom, this is Rachel. What the hell is going on? You are reporting us for fraud. We are your children. Call me back immediately." The entitlement in her voice was stunning. Even now, even after everything, she could not imagine that there would be actual consequences for her actions. Marcus was next. "Mom, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Can we please talk about this like adults? You are scaring everyone with this legal action talk." Adults. He wanted to talk like adults. Adults who steal from their mothers and then act confused when called out on it. Sophia's message was the most manipulative. "Mom, I do not understand what is happening. You are acting so strange. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you should see a doctor. I'm really worried about your mental state." There it was. The ultimate weapon. If I held them accountable, I must be having a mental breakdown. The problem could not possibly be their behavior. It must be my perception of reality that was flawed. I deleted all the messages and blocked their numbers. If they wanted to contact me, they could do it in writing through lawyers like the adults they claimed to be. That night I could not sleep. I kept replaying moments from the past 18 months, seeing them through new eyes. All the times I had brushed off my discomfort, convinced myself I was being paranoid or selfish. All the times I had prioritized their feelings over my own financial security. I thought about Michael and what he would say if he could see what had happened to our family. He had always been the stricter parent, the one who insisted the kids learn to stand on their own 2 feet. I had been the softer one, the one who wanted to help, who wanted to smooth every rough patch. After he died, I had overcompensated. I had tried to be both parents, to fill the gap he left behind. And my children had learned that grief made me malleable. That if they pushed the right buttons, invoked their dead father, reminded me how hard things were, I would give them whatever they wanted. Well, I was done being malleable. The next morning I did something I had not done in 5 years. I went shopping for myself. Really shopping. Not the guilty, furtive shopping where I bought the cheapest version of everything and felt bad about spending money on my own needs. But actual, unapologetic shopping. I bought a new winter coat, the beautiful cashmere one I had been eyeing for months. I bought real coffee, the good stuff, not the generic brand. I bought steaks and fresh vegetables and a bouquet of flowers for my dining room table just because they were pretty. At the checkout counter I hesitated for just a moment. The old Victoria, the pathetic Victoria, whispered that this was too much, too extravagant, too selfish. But then I remembered Rachel's face when she called me pathetic. I remembered the unauthorized charges on my credit card. I I remembered 18 months of peanut butter sandwiches while my children took vacations. I handed over my card without another thought. 2 days later, a lawyer showed up at my door. Not my lawyer. Rachel's lawyer. Mrs. Chen, I am Robert Fielding, and I represent your daughter Rachel Martinez. She has asked me to discuss this matter with you before it escalates further. I looked at the slick young man in his expensive suit and could not help but laugh. She hired you pretty quickly for someone who supposedly has no money. Mr. Fielding had the grace to look uncomfortable. Mrs. Chen, I think there has been a misunderstanding between you and your children. There has been no misunderstanding. My children borrowed money and refused to pay it back. My children used my credit card without permission. These are facts, not misunderstandings. Mrs. Chen, family matters are often more complicated than simple financial transactions. Your daughter maintains that the money you gave her was intended as gifts, not loans. I walked to my desk and picked up a thick folder. These are printed copies of text messages, emails, and written notes where Rachel explicitly promises to repay money she borrowed. Would you like to see them? His face went pale as he flipped through the pages. I had been thorough. Every single transaction was documented. Every promise to repay was highlighted. Every text where Rachel said this is just a loan or I will pay you back soon was right there in black and white. Mrs. Chen, perhaps we could work out some kind of arrangement. Here is my arrangement. Rachel has 28 days left to provide a written repayment plan with a realistic timeline and consequences for default. After 28 days, I am filing a civil suit for the full amount plus interest and legal fees. Mr. Fielding left looking significantly less confident than when he had arrived. That afternoon Marcus showed up at my door. I watched through the peephole as he rang the doorbell repeatedly, then started pounding on the door. Mom, I know you are in there. Your car is in the driveway. Open the door. We need to talk about this. I said nothing. I just stood there, watching him get increasingly agitated. Mom, this is insane. You are going to sue your own son over money. What would Dad think? There it was. The trump card. What would Dad think? I opened the door so fast Marcus stumbled backward. Your father, I said, my voice shaking with rage, would be ashamed of all three of you. He would be disgusted that you took advantage of my grief to rob me blind. He would be horrified that you used his memory to manipulate me. Marcus's face crumpled. Mom, I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did happen this way. And now you are going to pay me back every single cent, or you are going to explain to a judge why you thought it was acceptable to steal from your widowed mother. I closed the door in his face and locked it. Through the door I could hear him crying. But let him cry. I had cried plenty over the past 18 months while eating peanut butter sandwiches and canceling my gym membership so I could afford to give him money he never intended to repay. Week 2 of the 30-day deadline brought an unexpected visitor. My older sister, Patricia, flew in from Boston unannounced. She showed up at my house with her usual blend of concern and judgment. Victoria, what on earth is going on? Rachel called me in tears saying you are trying to destroy the family over money. I let her in because Patricia was not the enemy here. She was just misinformed. Sit down, Patty. Let me show you some things. I walked her through everything. The loans, the promises, the unauthorized credit card charges, the mounting evidence that my children had been systematically exploiting me for 18 months. Patricia's expression changed as she reviewed the documents. She went from skeptical to concerned to absolutely furious. $105,000. Victoria, why did you not tell me this was happening? 'Cause I was ashamed. Because I thought it was my fault for not setting better boundaries. Because I thought this was what good mothers did. Patricia, who had raised 4 kids of her own, shook her head slowly. Good mothers teach their children to be independent and responsible. They do not teach them that other people exist to fund their lifestyle. You did not help them, Victoria. You enabled them. Hearing it from my sister, someone I respected and trusted, made something loosen in my chest. I am done enabling them. But Patricia squeezed my hand. And I will testify in court if you need me to. What they did to you is unconscionable. Having Patricia on my side changed something. I had been so isolated in my guilt and shame, convinced that if I was a good mother I would just forgive and forget. But Patricia helped me see what I had been refusing to acknowledge. My children were not struggling victims of circumstance. They were adults who had made deliberate choices to exploit their mother's love and grief for financial gain. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Day 20 of the deadline arrived with no contact from any of my children except through their lawyers. Rachel's lawyer kept sending increasingly desperate settlement offers. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that the statute of limitations had expired, which was laughable since everything had happened within the past 2 years. Sophia had not hired a lawyer at all. She was still trying the mental health angle, sending me pamphlets about grief counseling and cognitive decline. I forwarded all of it to my own lawyer, Jennifer Park, a family law specialist Patricia had recommended. Jennifer was a petite woman in her 40s with a steel spine and absolutely no tolerance for nonsense. "Your children really do not understand the trouble they are in, do they?" Jennifer said during our meeting. "The unauthorized credit card charges alone could result in criminal charges. I do not want to put them in jail. I just want my money back and I want them to understand that what they did was wrong. Then we make that clear in the demand letter. They repay the full amount with interest, or we pursue both civil and criminal charges." The demand letter went out on day 25. It was comprehensive, devastating, and completely factual. Every loan, every promise, every unauthorized charge, all laid out with supporting documentation and a final deadline. Repayment plan due within 5 days or legal proceedings begin immediately. Day 26 brought Sophia to my door. Unlike Marcus's angry pounding, Sophia knocked softly and waited. When I opened the door, she looked smaller somehow. Younger. "Mom, can I please come in?" I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in my living room, the same living room where she had played as a child, where we had celebrated holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesday evenings. "I am so sorry," Sophia said and started crying. Not the manipulative tears I had seen from her before, but genuine gut-wrenching sobs. "I do not know how it got this bad. I kept telling myself it was not a big deal, that you had plenty of money, that I would pay you back eventually. But I never did and I just kept taking more." Elise, she was being honest. "Sophia, you used my credit card without permission. That is theft. You know." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I told myself it was just a little bit here and there, that you would not notice. But that does not make it okay. Nothing makes it okay." We sat in silence for a moment. "I cannot afford to pay you back all at once," she finally said. "I am drowning in student loans and rent. But I want to make this right. I will do whatever it takes." Jennifer had prepared me for this. For the child who would break first, who would be willing to negotiate in good faith. "Here is what I need from you. A written payment plan, realistic but consistent. Automatic withdrawals from your paycheck so I never have to ask. And a signed acknowledgement of the full debt with interest." Sophia nodded, wiping her eyes. "And if I do this, will you drop the criminal charges?" "If you stick to the payment plan without missing a single payment for 1 full year, yes. But Sophia, if you miss even one payment, if you try to manipulate me or guilt me or do anything except honor your commitment, I will pursue every legal option available. Understand?" She left with the repayment agreement Jennifer had prepared. 3 days later, I received a signed copy along with confirmation that she had set up automatic payments of $475 per month for 5 years. It was not enough to cover the interest, but it was something. It was accountability. Marcus caved on day 29. He showed up without a lawyer, without excuses, just an envelope full of documents. "I sold my car," he said flatly. "It was not worth what I owed you, but it is a start. I have $15,000 here. I will pay the rest at $700 per month. What about the unauthorized charges? I will pay those separately. An extra $100 per month specifically for that." Marcus looked exhausted, defeated. For the first time in 18 months, he looked like he understood the weight of what he had done. "Why, Marcus? Why did you think this was okay?" He was quiet for a long time. "'Cause you let us. Because after Dad died, You were so desperate to help that we learned we could ask for anything and you would give it. And once we learned that, it became normal. Expected. The honesty was brutal, but I appreciated it more than any apology. Your father would have never let it get this far. No. Marcus's voice cracked. Dad would have cut us off after the first loan if we did not pay it back. You loved us too much to set boundaries. Loving someone does not mean letting them destroy you. I know that now. Marcus signed the repayment agreement and left. 2 children down. 1 to go. Rachel was the holdout. As the deadline passed, I filed the civil suit. It was surreal, sitting in my lawyer's office while she submitted paperwork to sue my own daughter. But Jennifer was right. Sometimes the only way people learn is through consequences. The lawsuit made local news. Not front page, but a small article about a mother suing her children for unpaid loans. The reporter had been careful not to use names, but everyone in our community knew. My phone started ringing with friends and acquaintances, some supportive, many judgmental. How can you sue your own daughter? Does not family mean anything to you anymore? I stopped answering the phone. But the news article did something interesting. Prompted other people to reach out with their own stories. A father who had lost his retirement savings funding his son's failed business. A grandmother who had mortgaged her house to pay for her grandchildren's education, only to be put in a nursing home and forgotten. A widow who had given her entire life insurance payout to her children and ended up homeless. I was not alone. Family financial abuse was everywhere. Hidden behind closed doors and polite silences and the belief that good families do not talk about money. 2 weeks after the lawsuit was filed, Rachel's lawyer contacted Jennifer with a settlement offer. Rachel would admit to the debt and agree to a payment plan in exchange for dropping the suit. The payment plan was a joke. $50 per month for 20 years. At that rate with interest, she would end up paying double what she owed and I would be 80 years old before seeing the final payment. Jennifer called Rachel's lawyer and made a counteroffer. Rachel would pay $1,000 per month for 5 years, covering principal and interest, or we would proceed with the lawsuit and pursue the criminal charges for credit card fraud. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. My client cannot afford $1,000 per month. Then my client suggests your client sell some of the designer handbags and electronics she purchased with stolen money. Or perhaps cancel the Mexico vacation she has planned for next month. The one she posted about on Instagram yesterday. I had not even known about the Mexico vacation. But apparently Rachel was still living like nothing had changed, still spending money she did not have while claiming poverty to avoid paying back what she owed. The settlement negotiations dragged on for 3 weeks. In the end, Rachel agreed to $800 per month for 6 years. It was not ideal, but it was more than the insulting $50 she had initially offered. The day all 3 payment plans were finalized and the automatic withdrawals were set up, I went to Michael's grave for the first time in months. I sat on the grass next to his headstone and told him everything. I'm sorry I let it get this bad. I'm sorry I was not stronger sooner. But I am fixing it now. The wind rustled through the trees and I let myself believe it was Michael, telling me he was proud. 6 months into the payment plans, something unexpected happened. The payments kept coming. Every month like clockwork. Sophia, $475. Marcus, $700 for the loan plus $100 for the unauthorized charges. Rachel, $800. But more than that, something shifted in how they interacted with me. There were no more last-minute requests for money. No more assumed invitations to family events I was expected to host and fund. No more casual mentions of things they needed that I was supposed to provide. We were rebuilding a relationship, but it was different. More honest. More boundaried. Sophia called me on a Sunday afternoon. Her voice excited. Mom, I got a promotion at work. 20% raise. I wanted you to know that I am going to increase my monthly payments to you by $100. You do not have to do that, Sophia. We agreed on $475. No. But I want to. I want to finish paying you back faster. And I want you to know that I appreciate what you did. Forcing us to face consequences. I am better with money now. I actually have savings for the first time in my life. I cried after that call. Happy tears, sad tears, relieved tears all mixed together. Marcus started calling once a week just to talk. Not about money. Not about problems. Just to see how I was doing. To tell me about his daughter's soccer games. To ask my advice on work situations. "We're going to make it, Mom," he said during one of these calls. "I did not think we would, but we are going to make it." Rachel took longer. She was still angry, still convinced that I had overreacted and destroyed the family. But 10 months into the payment plan she called me. "Jake left me. I'm sorry, Rachel. He said I was not the person he married. That I had changed. Have you changed?" There was a long pause. Ev, I am more responsible now. More independent. And he could not handle that. He wanted the girl who needed rescuing, who would beg my mom for money instead of standing on my own feet. "You do not need rescuing, Rachel. You never did. I know that now. I'm sorry, Mom. For all of it. For taking advantage of you. For calling you pathetic. For making you feel like you had to choose between being a good mother and protecting yourself. You can be both, sweetheart. That is what I wish I had understood sooner." We cried together over the phone. It was not forgiveness, not entirely. But it was a start. 1 year after I sent that group text message, I did something I had not done in 5 years. I went on vacation. A real vacation. Not a guilt-ridden week where I worried about spending money the whole time. Patricia came with me. We went to Ireland, the trip Michael and I had always planned but never taken. We stayed in bed and breakfasts, toured castles, drank too much Guinness, and laughed until our sides hurt. On our last night in Dublin, Patricia raised her glass to me. To my sister Victoria, who learned how to say no and saved her own life. I clinked my glass against hers. To boundaries. To self-respect. To knowing that love without respect is not really love at all. When I got home, there was a package waiting on my porch. Inside was a photo album. The cover read "Our Family. A work in progress." Inside were pictures. Recent pictures. Sophia at her graduation, finally finishing her degree. Marcus with his daughter, both of them volunteering at a food bank. Rachel at her new apartment, the modest one-bedroom she could actually afford, looking proud and independent. The last page had a note, written in all 3 of their handwriting. "Mom, we know we cannot undo the past. We know sorry is not enough. But we want you to know that we see you now. Not as a resource or a safety net or someone who exists to fix our problems. But as Victoria Chin, our mother. A woman who deserves respect, dignity, and a life of her own. Thank you for loving us enough to let us fail. Thank you for being strong enough to set boundaries. Thank you for teaching us that actions have consequences, even when we hated learning that lesson. We are better people now because of you. We love you." Rachel, Marcus, and Sophia. I put the album on my bookshelf next to photos of Michael and poured myself a glass of wine. My house was quiet. My accounts were slowly being replenished. My relationships with my children were complicated but honest. And for the first time in years I was happy. Not the desperate happiness of someone trying to convince themselves everything is fine. But the deep, settled happiness of someone who has fought for their own worth and won. People ask me now if I regret how I handled things. If I wish I had been more forgiving, more understanding, more willing to just let it go. The answer is no. Not for a second. Because what I did was not about punishing my children. It was about teaching them and teaching myself that love does not mean sacrifice without limits. That family does not mean obligation without boundaries. That being a good mother means raising adults who understand accountability, not children who expect endless bailouts. Did it damage our relationship? The easy, comfortable dynamic where they could ask for anything and I would provide it is gone forever. But what replaced it is better. Harder, certainly. More complicated. But better. Because now when Rachel calls to tell me about her day, I know she is calling because she wants to talk to me, not because she needs something from me. When Marcus sends me photos of his daughter, I know he is sharing his life with me, not setting up for a future ask. When Sophia stops by for coffee, I know she is there to see her mother, not to scope out what she might be able to borrow next. We are building a new family dynamic. One based on mutual respect instead of exploitation. One where everyone's needs matter, not just theirs. One where I am allowed to be a whole person with my own dreams and boundaries and financial security. It took losing $105,000 and nearly losing myself completely to get here. But I got here. And I am not going back. To anyone reading this who sees themselves in my story, who has been giving and giving until there is nothing left, who has been called selfish for setting boundaries with family, I want you to know something. You are not pathetic. You are not wrong. You are not a bad parent or sibling or child for expecting the people you love to treat you with respect. Love is not supposed to destroy you. Family is not supposed to drain you dry. Help is not supposed to be a one-way street where you give everything and receive only demands for more. You deserve better. And it is never too late to start demanding it. I am Victoria Chin. I am 61 years old. I am a retired accountant, a widow, a mother, and a woman who finally learned that loving others does not mean losing yourself. And I am not pathetic. I am powerful. And that makes all the difference.